everybody had lead poisoning. I'm sure everybody in Congress or the Senate right now had severe childhood lead poisoning because all the paint in the 1940s, 50s, 60s was lead. There was lead paint everywhere. There was lead in the gas. It was endemic to the environment.
Welcome to Log Off. Everyone has an internet story to tell, and today we're getting Eric Ritter's. Eric recently hit my radar when a coworker showed me the Instagram account at EricEverythingLead. It appeared to be a guy just testing everything for lead, and yet it had racked up 150,000 followers in just a couple months. I watched a few videos and quickly became enamored by this Bill Nye Tom Green hybrid sprinting into thrift stores, hoverboarding into the sides of old barns, and rubbing foreign substances across his face, all apparently in the name of public safety. I invited him on the podcast without knowing anything else about him, his process, or his mission, so who knows where this will go. Eric, let's start this podcast the way we always do, at the beginning. What is your earliest internet memory?
My earliest internet memory has got to be AIM. You know, just having immediate access to everybody's conversational aspects online. And, that was it. It was crazy. You know, I remember the dial-up, all that stuff. When I was in high school, that's when everybody got Facebook started existing. And I'm like, I don't want to get on Facebook. You know, all my friends were like conspired to not get involved with this because I never had a MySpace. But then I got one. And, I definitely created content. It was pretty crazy, actually, too, because I'm the oldest of my family. My, siblings are younger. So I didn't know anybody, in high school outside of just who I knew immediately. So I figured like the best way to, get in touch with anybody would just be to take a photo of them, kind of like surreptitiously, unbeknownst to them, and just post it to Facebook and tag them in. And so I just like started doing that. And I, got able to introduce myself to all these people from my high school. So I guess it worked. But, I made a lot of different. I remember Vine. I loved Vine.
Oh, yeah.
I went insane on Vine. I made literally 4 hours of Vines. But then
what kind of stuff were you doing on there?
At first it was just like the typical, stuff you could do. You could look like you're floating. You could bug out and do all this stuff. Just like fun stuff. I remember I teleported to Taco Bell in the mirror. I went like this. And then I went off to the side and I shook it. Wow, this thing's following me around. It was pretty easy to get involved with social media and just really turn up if the core functionality of it is really an information spreading platform. So if you start spreading information, it will spread.
So is that kind of the impetus for you starting the Everything Lead account? You wanted to actually spread information?
Yeah, for sure. And the information that's being spread now about lead is coming from places of serious trauma, unfortunately, or governmental bureaucracy. So the EPA puts out information, but that's all flavored by the EPA's process, which I don't agree with 100%. We can get into that later. And then the other aspect of it is self-starting people whose children have been poisoned. And so then they spread the word and they talk about it. But it's a little bit, if you remember, or I don't know if you remember, but if you know of the organization MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And I used to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and a lot of my friends in there, had experiences with the MAD ladies. And not one of them walked away with it saying, they really got a point. The information, the way they came off of it was from a seriously disturbed spot, having a child be harmed in any way, especially being killed, is terrible. And so the flavor of that information wasn't so palatable to anybody listening. And I think the same is true with lead. A lot of people do get kind of stirred up and concerned about it from these sources, but it's not always practical information because the most practical thing to do is really to test for lead, with chemicals.
What is the best way that someone at home can test for lead?
Well, since this is airing in mid-March, the best way, I guess, is to use my fluorospec lead test kit. And or they could get some methylamine hydrobromide. They could dissolve it in isopropanol, add a little bit of acid in there, whether it be hydrochloric acid or something like acetic acid. But you should do it dry because you don't want to add water. And they could apply it to a surface, shine a UV light at 365 nanometers, and that will fluoresce green because of the evolution of these tiny crystals. They're like, only like 50 atoms big. They're tiny, and they reflect the light from the UV light and comes back green. Prior to that, they could have used 3M's lead check or my hiatus swabs, which was like a knockoff of 3M's lead check. But they're the same chemical, sodium rhodizonate, and that is, you dip it in vinegar or the lead check, it's all in one package. And that will turn red because the lead is readily accessible to these chemicals and just reacts and forms a colored complex. And that's the basis of what a reagent testing kit is.
You've mentioned a couple of your own products, like right off the bat. We should probably just get any affiliations out of the way just to stay on the right side of integrity. The stuff that you're trying to sell on the, use your accounts to sell, or like the place you're trying to drive people. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, detectlead.com is really the place where I want to funnel them to. And my aim for that is to have a consortium of free information, because some of lead testing is free. Like if you live in a house that was built after 1978, you don't have lead paint. If you live in a house that was built after 1988, you don't have a lead water service line. If you might have a water service line, you could test it for lead by using a coin, scraping the service line. If it's soft and leaves a silvery trail where the coin was, that's lead. So you don't need to spend any money to test your service line or know that you may or may not have lead paint in the house. Detect Lead is, where you could buy the fluorescent lead testing kit. And it's really my first foray into selling stuff that's not on Amazon, because prior to this, like I've been in business for 5 years, and I sell the lead testing kits, and I also sell smelling salts. Atomic Rhino smelling salts is the brand for that. And I always just sold them on Amazon because Amazon's like the block. That's where everybody's at. That's where the customers are at. And I don't need to be a known quantity to sell products. Like I've sold products online totally anonymously for 5 years. And it's just because the products are accessible to the market, and then they leave reviews, and those reviews are positive, and there's a good price point, and there's good packaging, and so they get sales. And it's hard to advertise, lead testing swabs because they're not fun to use. Yeah. But you saw how like people are so drawn to that glowing color, and it's so fast and so immediate, that I knew that this was a real opportunity for like lead poisoning to really go away. And like I am selling this stuff, I mean, that's for sure. So, and I have some qualms about that. Like, I don't know, people selling stuff is like always sketchy. I don't
see
know.
Nothing wrong with it. I mean, you're entertaining and informing. So, I mean, you're selling a product that helps people. So,
yeah.
Before we get into like the dynamics of the account, why it's entertaining, why I fell for it. Can you just like at a basic level go into like why lead is bad?
Certainly. I've been talking about this so much lately. Lead is bad because it acts like calcium in the body. It has a similar electrostatic charge, so it goes where calcium goes. And that's not just the bones, although it is stored there. Calcium goes into the nervous system, where it's used in something called a calcium-gated ion channel, which basically lowers the activation threshold for the neuron. So when another neuron tries to communicate with it, it is able to release the neurotransmitters. So when lead gets involved, so lead is bad really for two reasons. It's bad if you're a child, and it's bad if you're an adult. So if you're a child, the blood-brain barrier doesn't exist, or is very not functioning very well. So the lead will actually get into the brain. It will disrupt the neurons outside the neuron by these going to these calcium-gated ion channels, and inside the neuron by messing with the mitochondria. And so when lead gets into the calcium-gated ion channels, the neurons become hyperactive, and they're firing all the time. And this contributes to ADHD symptoms. It contributes to impulsivity and loss of behavioral control. And what makes matters worse is the mitochondria actually have to work harder to keep up with this constant firing, since the neuron is being used all the time now. So since there's lead inside the mitochondria, the cell may actually die. So you could have neuron death, which is terrible to happen in the brain. It's very hard to regrow neurons. And also, since the neurons are always firing and this kind of like excitable puppy modality is prevailing, the brain doesn't really lose connections like it should. And that might sound a little bit like the opposite of what you would think, lose connections. But if you think of a dog like an excitable puppy, they're all over the place. They can't control themselves. But as you train them, those neurons really go into kind of like bundles. And they're not all connected. They're only connected for specific things. So now the dog will respond to commands instead of just doing whatever it could pops into its head automatically. And this is called synaptic pruning. So just like you would prune a tree to make it look a certain way, the brain prunes itself to optimize for the environment. But when the brain is firing all the time, it can't do that. So there's loss of IQ because of the neuron death. There's the impulsivity, which affects IQ, and it affects behavioral stuff like that. In adults, lead is bad because it will increase blood pressure by acting on the neurons in a similar way outside of the brain. And also, since it acts like calcium, it's also deposited in the arteries, similar to calcium. And what's worse than calcium in your arteries? Lead. And it actually contributes to 400,000 premature deaths a year in the U.S. alone from heart disease, which is from high blood pressure, and something called ischemic heart injury, which is the blockage of arteries leading to the heart. So the heart's kind of starved of blood.
Are those health effects like reversible at all? Or is it just as soon as that's in your system, there's no way to mitigate it?
So for the childhood poisoning, it depends. Like if I was a child and I ate 1 gram of lead paint, I don't think that you could really reverse most of that because it would just be so much lead into the nervous system and it's not easy to get out. So there's the one part of it. And then the other part of it is if you have chronic lead poisoning, that's so much worse than acute lead poisoning for the adult phase. So like, most people were exposed to high levels of lead who were born, really before 1980. And because they started really decreasing the amount of lead and gas at 1980. So all that lead goes into the bones. Like you'll get it out over time, especially when you have osteopenia or osteoporosis. But if you don't consume lead over time, your blood lead level will be a lot lower. So really avoiding just like the big sources is definitely enough for most people. If you had previous lead exposure at a high level, you probably want to be a little bit more aggressive about your exposure to certain kinds of foods or hobbies that may expose you to lead. But, if you're not a kid who's under the age of 6, you can avoid it and you'd be much better off. I mean, they'll be better off too.
As far as you know, is America worse or better than other developed nations as far as, exposure to lead?
We're way worse in terms of paint, mostly because our housing stock wasn't destroyed in World War II. And in Europe, they didn't repaint with lead. They already knew that lead was bad. They didn't have a lot of lead mines in Europe. And I don't know if was lobbying there or whatever, but like in the US, like they really pushed lead paint for as long as they could reasonably push it. And I don't know about the gas, lead and gas thing, because everybody used lead and gas for a while, but depends on really with the lead and gas thing, it really depends on where you're at. If you lived in a city where there's a ton of cars, there was literally tons of lead. There was about 1 gram of lead in a gallon of gas. And like we burned like 250 million gallons a day. So now the lead is in all the soil and all the food has at least some lead, but it's not like the end of the world. Like, I mean, we have 1,000 times more lead in our bodies than pre-industrial humans did. But, we also have access to medicines and like our quality of life is infinitely better. Like, we may be exposed to all these toxins, and that kind of like gets me twisted a little bit because these non-toxic influencers will say all this stuff, but like we all have to contextualize our exposure to toxins and weigh it against modern medicine's ability to keep us healthy. Like, yeah, we'll evolve cancers and stuff. Nobody used to get cancer because they didn't live past 40.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's just wild.
Try to think of a follow-up here, but I'm just depressed.
It is somewhat depressing. I mean,
Yeah. So let's get into the account a little bit. I imagine at the start you were kind of posting into the abyss, as with all social media accounts, you kind of start at zero. Was there a specific video that made the account explode over the last few months?
I really messed up, right? The first one was fully into the abyss. I just posted a video that I took over the summer. I did this around about Christmas. And I mean, really the reason why I made this account was because like I didn't know what to do. Like prior to this, I was really coasting in my business and everything was going swell. And then there was like this agency, they did a lot of crazy things to one of my listings and Amazon pulled it. and I was moving like 9,000 units a month of smelling salt products. So I was really freaking out. I was like, what am I going to do? And this is significantly impacting my income. I got to figure out what to do. I'm already in contract to buy this building that I need to make this glowing lead test. So I figured I got to start doing something. And so I posted that first video just of me testing a barn. That's my grandma's barn. And, you know, it didn't get any views. And I was like, all right, this is great. I'm just going to post. Because I was planning initially on just running ads off of this account. And so I figured I'm just going to post as much stuff as I can before I start running ads. So it, like, if you click on the account, you can just get free information on the account. You can go there and you can learn stuff about lead and be informed about what's going on. And you can see me doing it. And that gives a little bit more like personality to just like a corporate account posting ads saying, buy this product. And I don't know anything about advertising or being a corporation. Like I'm not really, I don't know, you know, like I've read some books on it. Like it's really compelling, but I'm also very suspicious of selling, because if I'm very good at sales, you better hope that I'm selling you something that's good for you, because I could very easily be selling something that's terrible for you and you might buy it because I'm good at sales. So too bad for you. And that's like a really unjust conundrum that we have with people who are so good at sales, they could sell anything. And, you know, and whatever. So the second video I posted wound up getting like 500,000 views in short order. And that's when I was really like, oh my God, I really messed up here, because I don't have anything to post. I have nothing to post. I have to go out and and for like, I'm still doing this now. I have this one video that I'm going to post tomorrow, and then I have basically nothing else. I have to go out and manufacture more content and then edit it on my phone and then post it, because I'm not like a sophisticate with, you know, I don't know how to exploit people's labor that I don't know already. Like, it's tough.
You seem to have really good camera presence. Where does that come from? Do you have like a background in any kind of performance or journalism or anything?
No, but I have a background on being on social media. Like I said, when I was in high school, I was like, you know, posting, I do like these 3 hours of Vines. Those Vines were only like 10 seconds each or something, 6 seconds, some crazy short format. That was like the most ADHD enabled platform ever. And so, you know, I always had fun, you know, making these videos. I remember actually in elementary school, I made a movie with my cousin and we traveled back in time. We hammered the car. We got in it. And we were back in the woods and there was a dinosaur, and I showed it to my like, third grade class. But that was like the end of my career with that. I don't know why. But, you know, I don't mind being on camera. I like to talk. But it is crazy. Once the camera comes, like sometimes it's easy to freeze up. Because like right now I'm talking to you, but if I don't necessarily have something to talk about or good prompts, I'm talking to the abyss.
You seem to also know the value of a good hook, whether it's like riding a hoverboard or sprinting into a store during an establishing shot. I think like no one else really is doing that on social. They'll just show the building instead of their body like flying into it. Do you put a lot of planning into each of these videos?
No, I don't. I don't put any planning into the videos. I just do whatever. I just show up and do whatever. And I do understand that there is like an absolutely minuscule amount of time before the person on the phone will react and scroll through or not. Like, I mean, social media is so addictive. It is absolutely catastrophically addictive. And I actually didn't even use it for like a long time before I started posting on this. And actually, what's funny is before I did this is how little planning I actually employ. Before I did this Eric Everything Lead count, I posted some videos to my personal account, and it was just my buddy putting lead in food, and then having me like, and then the hook was like these chips have enough lead on them to kill a human. Like Eric's gonna like see if he can figure out which one's safe to eat, and he would give me two identical things, and I would test them both, and I would say this one has lead, and I'd eat the other one. Or some nerds. The nerds were actually the scariest one because there was so much lead in the one nerd box, and then I just went and I ate all the other nerds. And so I stopped doing that. I only did like 2 videos. I posted this, everybody from my high school saw it, and I was like, all right, I don't know, this is crazy. I think this is not even going to get viral because it's dangerous. Like you could literally get poisoned if you did it wrong. So I took like a week off, and I figured I'm just going to post stuff. I'm not going to try to make it crazy. And then I just went to the one that blew up. I just went to a local thrift shop, and I just was casually talking to my girlfriend about lead detection. And I found that, there was like 4 objects with lead. I was like, wow, this is crazy. There's actually a lot of good lead to find. And I'm also already addicted to finding lead naturally, because probably because I'm making the product, I've done so much research on it. Like when it glows, that's good. And it wasn't always glowing when I was working on the liquids.
It sounds like you always ate the correct food, like found the lead and ate the correct food. Have you had any like bad mishaps where you accidentally ingested or exposed yourself to lead in the process?
Not with lead, but with the first reagent I was making. So when I first got into selling on Amazon, this was in 2018. I was on vacation, and I was talking to a guy from my high school who's a couple years older, and he said that he was doing Amazon FBA. And I said, okay, that sounds great. He was just buying plates and selling them on Amazon. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to find the most niche item that only I know about, and I'm going to sell that. I'm going to make basically like a cartel style business structure as best as I can. Vertical integration from like as farmy as I can get it to as direct to consumer as I can get it. And I've decided to make reagent test kits. And the reagent test kits that I was most familiar with was Ehrlich's reagent and Marquise reagent, which are for identifying drugs. And Amazon only let me sell this for like 4 months. But it was working good. I was getting like $300 or $400 a day off of this. I was like, wow, there's like some serious potential here. And the Marquise reagent was absolutely horrible to make. It really is toxic. It consists of concentrated sulfuric acid and formaldehyde. Really nasty, like really disgusting smelling. And so the way I was making it, I was taking a syringe, like 100 milliliter syringe. I was sucking up the liquid and I was depositing it into all these bottles. And the reagent is actually mixed. But what I was doing was I had 2 bottles, because when you mix them, it degrades. The sulfuric acid will degrade the formaldehyde far faster than the formaldehyde will break down on its own. So I did the formaldehyde. This is outside my parents' house. And I'm doing the sulfuric acid, and I had a bowl of sulfuric acid. And it was so strong, the acid, that it was corrupting the inside of the syringe so catastrophically that I couldn't pull the thing back anymore. And I pulled it as hard as I could. And then the plunger popped out, and then my whole hand went right into the bowl. And I was like, oh my God. And my hand was immediately crisping up. And my cousin, thankfully, was there, and he had some baking soda and water in an Nalgene bottle. I said, give me that right now. And I dumped it on my hand, and it fizzed up even more, and it got really hot. And then I realized I don't know if you can see it here, but I have somewhere. I got a scar here on my chest from it. Oh yeah, right there. So it's not that big now, but I got burned on my chest. It burned through some of my pants.
Jesus.
That sulfuric acid was strong. And so that was like, I don't even know if I was wearing goggles. So I stopped. So, I mean, I kept on actually selling it, but I did get better equipment to fill the bottles. But I'm actually glad I don't sell that anymore, because somebody could have got hurt with that.
This seems like a good time to ask. Probably should have asked it at the top. Do you have a scientific background before selling these products?
No. I mean, well, not officially. Like I went to college for, soft stuff like whatever, business management, political science, and psychology. I always forget that psychology part for some reason. Probably because the classes weren't very memorable. But they kind of overlapped with the poli-sci classes. But I mean, college, I wasn't doing too much then with school. But I really have always loved science. I've been addicted to science low key my entire life. In like 3rd grade, I don't know if it was 3rd grade. It was in elementary school. I read about black holes. And I don't know if you've ever read about black holes before, but it is like the hardest form of science that you can read about, because it's so extreme and they're so like kind of like key to the universe's formation and then evolution. And I think the devolution of the universe will eventually wind up in one massive black hole that will probably explode cyclically. But I was just like so enamored by it that I always loved science and I always loved reading. And like really like my most powerful memory of the internet always is Wikipedia. Because I remember Wikipedia in high school, like, oh, Wikipedia is no good. It's not real information. And so I just started using the sources. I would just write a paper and I would just cite the sources that were cited on Wikipedia because they're real sources. I'm not citing nothing. I'm citing sources. And nobody's going on Wikipedia and saying, oh, you just copied the sources. So Wikipedia is infinite information. And I would just go through, I could get to any page. I could probably get to any page on Wikipedia just by clicking on other things in like 10 steps. Because they're all linked. You can find stuff and you get closer and you're like, I'm real close now. And then you hone in on it. And that's a fun game I used to play.
It's the Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but for Wikipedia.
Yeah, for sure.
So you really tapped into the zeitgeist when you tested Stanley Cups for lead and posted about it. It seemed to get like millions of views and like almost as many comments. Can you walk through that process and what you found?
Yeah, I mean, the Stanley Cup thing, I've known about it for a while. It's really like a scam. Like almost no one's getting poisoned. And I said that in the video. I said like almost no one's getting poisoned by these cups because it is hidden. There's really no basis to recall them because the only products, any product in fact, could contain lead legally and be sold to people. It's only products that are intended for use by children that have lead in accessible components that would be regulated under the Consumer Product Safety Commission ruling. And even then, they actually blend the entire product up into a homogeneous powder, and then they test that. So that's how all those baby bottles actually get through, because they wind up blending it, and most of the bottle is just inert glass with no lead. Your question was about the Stanley Cups. I saw something about it, and I said, this is definitely good to tap into. Like, obviously, this is trending. It's topical. I'm gonna make a video about it, and I don't want people to freak out because that's like the craziest thing. Because I saw one lady. She was like, it's 4 a.m. I'm testing Stanley Cups. They have lead. Like, let's say her hair was falling out on camera. She looked so stressed, and that's the last thing I want people to be is stressed about lead, and stressed about anything. In fact, because like most of life is really just what we make it, right? So like I could have lead poisoning, but like if I'm freaking out about it, it's gonna be 10 times worse. And like people's children, everybody had lead poisoning. I'm sure everybody in Congress or the Senate right now had severe childhood lead poisoning because all the paint in the 1940s, 50s, 60s was lead. There was lead paint everywhere. There was lead in the gas. It was endemic to the environment. But here's the key thing, none of those children's parents said, hey, you have lead poisoning. You have an intellectual disability. They just said, better stick with it, or whatever they would say. They'd probably hit him or something back then. But like that really insulated all those people from feeling a certain way. It's almost like as damaging as racism can be to a person to internalize that feeling that other people are judging them, and like that's a really horrible situation to have happen. And with lead poisoning, if I have lead poisoning, I don't know about it, I'm never going to know. But if my parents find out and they start talking about it and they start telling me about it and they start telling other people about it in front of me, I'm going to really feel a certain way. And that's not good for the kids or for the parents because it is really stressful. And, a lot of people have health anxiety, and lead is really potentially everywhere, kind of. So it's like kind of like a reasonable fear to have, and it's terrible for children. So having young children, of course, that's like the number one thing you want to avoid, especially when the only people talking about it are people that have had such bad experiences with it that they're still talking about it maybe 15 or 20 years later. And that's a really scary thing, I think, for parents. So part of like and I've had a lot of experiences with these kinds of people because initially I was planning on just remaining anonymous, and I was trying to just use money to negotiate with people. But I don't know if you ever heard the phrase like that, you can't negotiate with terrorists. Mm-hmm. Because terrorists are not driven by money. They're driven by an ideology. Mm-hmm. And so when people are driven by an ideology that's rooted in trauma, it's not going to be able to be reconciled with logic. And I'm a very logical person in certain contexts, I'm horribly illogical, but I think that's just the way my brain is wired. But when it comes to like getting stuff done, like we're going to need to have a viable solution. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. So like in business and in life, like what's the plan? Like I want to know the plan and I want to make sure that the plan can work. And so, when it comes to something like the Stanley Cups, my plan was to put something out there topical. That's why I did kind of sell out a little bit when I did the follow-up video about the Yeti. Where that video got like 1.2 million views as of now. And that was just me just like sledgehammering a Yeti open and being like, look, it has lead too, which it did. But like that thing, I just hit it with a sledgehammer like 4 or 5 times to get the bottom to come off.
So do you think the Stanley thing was just people kind of feasting on the moment, like the hot topic of the moment, and spreading the lead stuff?
I think so, because so many people bought a Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. And I think that consumerism is such a potent experience that anything that's tangentially related to it will also take on the same aura. Because like, let's say me, you, and 3 other people that we know, we all have Stanleys. Now, like, you hear a rumor that there's lead in the Stanleys. Like, I'm already really ideating about my Stanley and your Stanley and the fact that we all have them, so much so that fact grasps right onto this fact that I have a Stanley. So it's like really easy for me to like understand that, and talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like that video is a good example of. Well, it's a little bit different, but it shows your process. Can you walk through how you actually tested that product for people who haven't seen the video yet?
Yeah, I used. Well, the first I think I made 2 Stanley videos actually. I did kind of sell it a little bit for the Stanley, but I got like 20,000 followers off of one of those videos.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is really intense. I went from not using social media for years because I was concerned about its impact on my mental health to now getting so many followers that it's like really like frying my brain. So I used chemicals to test it. I used a swab to test it. I used a spray, which as we talked about earlier, makes the lead glow. And I also use something called an X-ray fluorescence spectrometer, which is a tool that sends X-rays, which is really just a form of light that we can't see. And it's such a short-wave form of light that it actually just goes through most objects. So this X-ray light hits whatever it's sent to. It hits the atoms, and there's the electrons going around the atoms. It excites the atoms so much because there is actually a ton of energy. In order to make an X-ray, you need like an insane amount of energy. It's not like a light bulb. So the energy hits the atoms and it pushes the electrons out to a higher orbit because they're more energetic. And then they reflect or they emit X-ray light off of them. And the machine can see that light and it can see what color it is. And then it judges what the elements are that it's shooting the X-rays at. So I shoot it into the sealing dot and I see that there is in fact some lead in there. I mean, mostly lead. And lead is a really low melting point. So it's really useful for sealing vacuum flasks because it could be melted and, cools quickly and stuff like that. So yeah, I used X-ray fluorescence. I used the chemical tests. And X-ray fluorescence spectrometry is really the best way to detect lead, but it also is kind of harming us, I think, slightly at this point.
Why is that?
Because I'll tell you something crazy about lead. So there's these crazy things about lead. Like, everybody used to be lead poisoned. The National Lead Corporation was a $1 billion company in the 1800s. Here's the crazy thing about lead. In terms of paint, this is the most insane fact that nobody will tell you. I have to prepare myself for this. In 1973, the government determined what lead-based paint was. And they said lead-based paint is any paint that contains more than 600 parts per million lead. And that means that just out of 1 million atoms in the paint, 600 of those are lead. And they said that that's dangerous, and that's what lead-based paint is. That definition stuck all the way until 1988, when the portable X-ray fluorescent spectrometers became known to the government as a solution to the issue that they had, which was that all of their housing stock virtually had lead in it when it was built, like basically before like 1960. It all had lead paint. It was all exposed, and so many people were getting poisoned from this that it's like really a danger to national security, because when the entire population loses 5 to 10 IQ points, increases their impulsivity, you get America today. So, or like the whole world, because like a lot of people are affected like this, especially, much older people who are in really big seats of power now. So they decided that in 1992, they're going to start spending money to remediate the lead paint that was in federally funded housing. And the way to do this was use the X-ray guns. But the problem was that the X-ray guns were terrible. If you could imagine a cell phone in 1992, now imagine an X-ray gun. That thing is horrible. It was based on technology. Basically, they had like a isotope of cadmium that is radioactive. It's housed in like a shielded box, and you'd pull a trigger, and then the shutter would open, and the X-rays would stream out, hit the surface, and then make everything glow in X-ray, and then it would read that, and then it would say, okay, we got, however many counts of lead-looking light, and then that's going to be, over the limit. But the limit that they derived was 5,000 parts per million, almost 10 times higher than the initial limit, which was based on health. But it was based on practicality. This is the only way to do it. Because the other option is scrape off the paint, send it to dissolve it in acid, put it into an atomic absorption spectrometer. That takes forever. And you would have to do that on multiple surfaces, because this is now about money. How much, like, the government's going to pay to get rid of the lead in the homes that they built. So they're not going to spend money on homes that don't have lead paint, or only have a tiny bit of lead paint, or the lead paint's not that bad. So it was really like a big endeavor. And that was really successful. Like, they remediated so much lead in houses. But at this point, we're still stuck on that 1992 limit, even though the XRF guns can do better. And I was at the EPA conference in November, and they were so high on themselves. They were like, yeah, we got this. Like, we're not lowering the limit. We don't need to. This is an effective strategy. But it's really not, because as paint gets overpainted more, the guns will average the amount of lead, and the limit, like, it'll go below the limit. And the insane thing is, if you hire a professional lead inspector to inspect your house, they're not going to tell you, oh, you have a little lead. No way. They're going to say you have lead-based paint or you don't. And they're going to issue you a report, and they're not going to scan your dishes, and they're not going to do anything but do a surface-by-surface analysis of the home, inspecting for the presence of lead-based paint. And I took the class, and I took the test for the EPA thing. It takes 3 days. The people in it were not interested in science. They were interested in fulfilling, this course so they could continue to do their job. So I think it's hampering us because of that, because you very well could have paint that would endanger you if you were to sand it. And a lead inspector will charge you $300 and won't tell you about it. And like, they're not like bad for doing that, but they're also not good for doing that. So
a lot of the products you test are like commemorative glasses. They have lead in the decorative paint, but not in the actual structure of the item. Why is that still harmful?
I don't know if it's harmful. I'm not really sure.
Right.
It's like the easiest thing to test for, because they have a high levels of lead. Some of them are harmful. Like I have a big beef with the Pyrex dishes. Those are harmful, because if you touch the outside of the Pyrex dish, you will get lead on your hand. And now it's on your hand. So then you can, if you bite your nails, let's say, or you eat food with your hands, like, some of that lead could get onto the surface, of the sandwich, and then you'll consume that lead. Like, if you have a baby bottle, in theory, the baby could suck on the side of the bottle, or they could touch it with their hands, put their hands in their mouth. So like, it is possible for the lead to come off. I'm not convinced that they all are dangerous. And that's why I bought one of those atomic absorption spectrometers, because unlike the XRF gun, the XRF gun will go down to like 10 parts per million. The atomic absorption spectrometer will go down to 0.5 parts per billion. So it's like over 1,000 times more sensitive. And this would enable me to, let's say, rub my hand on something, wash off my hand, test that water, weigh the water, see how much lead went onto my hand total, or wipe the thing with something. I have to come up with some protocols that simulate like normal touching. And then you see like practically how much lead is on my hand, and then how much of that could get into my body if I were to ingest it, and then not all of the lead gets absorbed. So that's where I'm headed with this. And I finally was able to actually order the machine. I tried to buy one like a year ago, and the companies wouldn't let me buy it because I tried to get it shipped to my house. So
once you have that warehouse, you can have it shipped there.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, I got them to visit me there, and they said, "Yeah, we're going to send it to you." And I said, "All right, let's do it." And that's that's part of becoming like the expert, and that's what I'm vying to do. I'm trying to become like the expert in the field. So when people refer to lead, they refer to the stuff that I put out there, which is rational science, literally science-based information that paints a picture of what you can do practically to protect yourself, which,
Yeah, you've talked about earlier eras, and most of the items you're testing are in secondhand stores. They're from, back in the day. What kind of new or current products pose the biggest threats right now?
One thing that is really terrible is something called leaded crystal. So it's glass with lead in it. It's like 24% lead oxide. And those are decanters for wine. Sometimes they're cups, wine glasses, and stuff like that. And like just drinking one glass of wine will give you your daily dose of lead from that wine glass. And if you store it in there, forget about it. It's going to be much higher because that's like 30 minutes soak time. But if you leave the wine in there for a month, it's going to have a lot of lead in it. Like a lot. So, definitely stay away from those. Modern products with lead. Like some food contains a lot of lead, like coca-based products. Like anything with coca mixed into it, or dark chocolate contain a lot of lead. Certain other foods like cassava root flour has a lot of lead. Anything that's processed, it's like those green drinks, like AG1. Like I love AG1.
Yeah.
But like it has lead in it. Yeah, so if you're in California, AG1 will actually have a lead warning on the package. It will say that there is this, this product may expose you to products that are chemicals that are on the Proposition 65 list, including lead. And it is because of lead. And that's because those products are, like anything that's grown in the soil is going to absorb nutrients from the soil. And lead is like basically a nutrient in the soil for a plant. And it'll uptake it. And when you like blend it down and then you get like a powder from it and you take some of it away, like the lead may stay behind. And so you wind up concentrating it. And then, how much is in AG1? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And so it's like some foods have it, but it's not necessarily consumer products. It's potentially activities. Shooting, for example. There's not just lead in the bullets. There's actually lead in the propellant that fires the bullet. It's called lead stannate, and it's an explosive. I looked into making it, but I decided against it because not only is it made of lead, it's explosive, it's sensitive to shock. It seemed like I would blow myself up and get lead poisoning. So I just didn't do it. And I've made some dangerous lead compounds before, but this one was like, I'm like, I don't know anything about making explosives, so I'm not going to try. So shooting's in one. If you go diving and you have a soft bag, they call it. It's just lead shot in a mesh bag. And all those lead shot pieces just grind against each other. And I made a video on this, and it just makes a ton of particles of lead. And I had a couple people message me prior to that and ask me, what do you think about this? Like I put this in my trunk. I'm having a kid soon. And then I messaged the dude back. I was like, I don't know. I think your trunk's contaminated. If you're just been throwing these soft bags in the trunk, like there's probably lead all throughout the trunk. So don't do that. So yeah, shooting twice a month can give you lead poisoning.
Is there a responsible way to dispose of these things once you realize you have them in your home?
The trash, reasonably,
Just
the trash.
Just throw it in the trash.
Yeah, like unless you're like doing construction and you have like massive amounts of lead paint, like you should dispose of that properly, because the way you determine if you can just throw something in the trash or not is you have to perform a leachability test, which is like beyond the scope of most people's capabilities. So lead paint, of course, is highly leachable. It will dissolve easily in any kind of acidic conditions. And like water could have some degree of like acid bite to it. So it's not a good idea to dispose of that in the trash. But like plates and stuff, like, like I'm not a safety nut, first and foremost. Like I'm not like going to be really uptight about this. Like it's whatever. Like the world is really a contaminated place. But, if it's going in the landfill, it's going to do about 1,000 times less damage than if it's in your home and you're eating off of it. Like, let's be real. It's freaking, you're eating off of the thing. Throw it in the trash. Throw it in the landfill. No one's going to eat off of the landfill. And they do a pretty good job of keeping that stuff from leaching into the ground anyway. I have, though, like freaking 100, 200 pounds of lead dishes now. So I'm not going to throw all that stuff out when I throw it out. I'm not going to throw it in the trash because that's an insane amount. And I'm going to probably do something like, because I'm going to see how much lead comes off of all that stuff.
Yeah. When you find a bunch of lead, if you're testing in a thrift store or whatever, I see you carrying a big box of like the tested items out of the thrift store. How does that work? Are you buying them? Is the manager letting you take them after you show they're exposed, or are you just stealing them?
No, I just buy them. I just buy them. Somebody said you should steal them because like you're supporting the companies, but like I'm not gonna. I'm like I'm trying to stay out of trouble. I've never been put in jail. I'm not trying to start going to jail now over this anyway. Or over anything, especially this.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to. It doesn't cost that much money though. Thrifted items are cheap. It's like $50, $100 maybe. The most I spent was like $200. But I made a mistake. I went to like a collectible store where all the stuff was like not just thrifted junk. It was like collectible items and they were sought after. And it was like, I'm like, oh my God, this thing was $30 for one thing. Like this set's $40. Like, why did I test it?
Do you ever get any pushback when, if people spot you like splashing your goo on all over their items?
I don't really get spotted.
Okay.
Like I never really been caught. I've always been like kind of able to just like avoid it because I'm like looking around. I'm like, not like, hey guys, like, because I feel uncomfortable filming in public. I'm not like a YouTuber. Like I'm not a person who's like comfortable just like showing up in the spot and just like shooting it up with my camera. Like I'm like a little embarrassed about it. I'm like, like, yeah, like I'm gonna record this. Like I'm still only been doing it for 2 months. So I've always been like low key with it.
And I assume you just leave the goo behind. You're not washing it off afterwards?
No, I just wipe it off. It's water soluble. So like I don't even like tell people this because the controversy is so good for the views.
Yeah.
So like
that's the most common question I see underneath the videos, and you never answer it. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
I just leave it alone because I'm not gonna say, hey guys, like I wipe all this stuff off. I wipe all this stuff off. Like there's like 50 comments under the first comment, and then people are like, does it matter? He's helping us. So what if it's non-toxic? Blah, 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 blah. And that's crazy to me because I never thought that this would go like this. I was just trying to make some videos that would constitute a body of work that people could refer to and get some free value from, and then also just like legitimize the fact that I'm putting this advertisement out there. But now it's like, it really is terribly stressful, actually. I saw a satirical video the other day of a lady who was lamenting the fact that she has to make these videos of her pet ferret or pet, pet or whatever. It was she's like, I hate that. I hate this pet because I always have to make videos every day. She's like, but it's my sole source of income. It was actually a hilarious video, but I really felt it. I'm sure it was satire, but I'm actually not satirically feeling that way because I'm like, oh my God, like now, like everybody's going to see this. I mean, so many people are going to see this. This is so stressful to like, I'm going to make another video. Like, damn it. What did I get myself into?
When you post something, like how long do you sit there and hover and see what the reaction is?
I hover hardcore for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then immediately I'm like, the watch through rate is so low, but it's like been like 25 seconds. Like nobody would have been able to get to the end yet. And then I just get away from it and then I'll look at it, throughout the day. But it really is stressful. And I feel bad for people because when I was doing social media, I didn't really care about the likes. because I like knew for a fact that everybody was seeing it anyway. And like I wasn't going for the likes, I was going for the real world interactions. I was going to get off the back of the likes or the fact that the content was out there. But now it's really evolved. Like once I graduated high school in 2010, going into 2012, it really changed. Everybody became much more conscious of the fact that there were a number of likes, because when you move into Instagram, the likes are really what predominates. Like the posts, the likes. And so like everybody became much more aware of this and would like post content intentionally to like get likes. And I felt that that was kind of like antithetical to the point of social media, which is just to like have fun, make a mess, like post stuff that people can relate to and bring everybody into the fold. But now it's like a lot of posturing, which I absolutely can't stand. I don't even know if I could live with myself.
Is there a common like pushback or criticism that you're, on edge about when you first post? Like, what's the most common thing that people are saying?
No, it's actually all really positive. The thing that gets me that I don't like is when someone's like, you're going to get in trouble for this. I hate when people say that, because I don't think I would get in trouble, but I just don't like that. That's just a bad energy to put out there. So I'm like, hide.
Have you ever been like truly shocked by something that you found when you were doing your testing? Like you didn't expect it to be quite as lead potent?
Not really.
No.
I mean, like, because lead is a thin topic. There isn't that much to it. Like, I know I've said a lot of stuff, and there's like, I'm saying, oh, there's a lot of angles and stuff. But once you just like sit there and you take the multiple classes from the EPA and you read every paper about lead and you talk to all the different people from all the different disciplines about lead, it's not really that confusing. Like, there's lead and stuff. Like, we know where it's at. Like, the thing that really blew my mind was the fact that we're mired in rules from 1992 for detecting lead, or like, or this one, like the government pledged $300 billion to get rid of the lead pipes over the next 8 or so years in the U.S. But lead pipes beget, I don't know, that's not the right turn of phrase, but like if you have water flowing through a lead pipe, it's going to flow through the plumbing in your house before it comes out of the tap. So all the scale in all the houses that are fed by lead pipes for 50 years have scale that contains lead in the pipes in their house. And so now, when you have a lower concentration of lead in the water flowing through those pipes, there will be a period of time, it will be a long period of time, where the lead will diffuse out of the scale and into the water naturally. So like it's an intractable situation in many regards. And that's what's shocking to me is like that. It is pretty depressing actually. It's like oh my god, like where is like this is like the end of the zombie movie. Like all this stuff has already happened, and we can't get out of it easily. Like we're in the mall now on the roof. Is there a helicopter coming? I want to be that helicopter.
So what's the end game here, or what's next for the Detect Lead empire? I saw you were starting to get a podcast off the ground.
Yeah, it's so hard to get a podcast off the ground, and you can probably tell by this interview how like I'm literally all over the place. I can't even answer a question directly because it's like I think of something else, I'll start talking about that. So it's
that's
really
what
hard.
Editing is for. We can edit. It's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean you can edit. You can edit. I struggle to even manage the files because I know so little about this. I'm so new at this. I'd like to get the podcast going. I'd like to get experts on there, but the experts don't love me. I have to break it to you because I don't necessarily love the work that the experts do. And the experts certainly love the work that they do. And they're sure that the work that they do is very sophisticated and that it's the top line problem-solving technique that should be implemented. And if they hear anything but that, they typically don't engage in investigative discourse about it because that would open them up to a really big ego slap. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, especially when you're an erudite, intellectual, academic person. And I don't even have a PhD. I'm just coming out of the woods. And I'm saying, hey guys, consider the following. What about this? What about that? And they just like dismiss it. So it's hard to get them on. I've failed to get anybody on there. I just have to do more episodes, I guess. But it's just tough to stick to the script for me. So that's why these short form videos are perfect, because I'm just like, and then I'm just like edit it up, and I'm like, bam, minute and 30 seconds.
Is that refusal to hear you out? Is that all hubris, or is there some kind of corruption or compromise happening there that you're also concerned with?
I don't think that anybody's corrupt. I think that the people who were corrupted by lead are done now. Like, that was back in the day. Like, they literally hired scientists to say, I think the safe level of lead in kids is 80 micrograms per deciliter, which now it's known to be 3.5. Like, those guys are paid literally. The people now who are doing it, like, everybody has their own reasons for doing anything. And when we have our own reasons for doing things, I know from my perspective, like, I may or may not be closest to the source when I'm doing those things. So, like, if I am, and I'm doing it purely on my own ideations, like, it's going to be random chance if I'm close to the source on this. And if I'm not, I risk just going in the wrong direction and not being able to hear anything but my own thoughts on the matter, because I'm so sure that I'm doing it right. And there's like a big body of evidence for people doing things right when they don't get fired from their jobs, when their peers accept their work, when they get peer-reviewed journal published, when they get any kind of positive feedback ever. And it's very easy to discount naysayers by rationalizing, oh, this person is discounting my opinion because of X, Y, or Z. So I just think that it's just run-of-the-mill, normal human stuff at this point. And, it's the EPA. They're like not a nimble body. Mm-hmm. They really only banned that lead in gas because it was destroying the catalytic converters. You can't have a catalytic converter and run lead gas because the lead will condense in the inside of the catalytic converter and clog it up. And the smog was really the most obvious part of the pollution from the cars. Like, the smog issue before they implemented all these smog controls was huge. Everybody could see it. I remember I watched an episode of Mad Men one time, and they he's in California. He opens the shades, and it's just like, it's like pea soup outside. And so it really must have been horrible. And so they were, were they trying to get rid of the lead? Yeah, probably. Maybe. But like, mostly, you can't run lead through a catalytic converter. It will not work. Like, it's impossible. So that's why.
That's fine, because they're all getting stolen anyway. Are you planning to stick solely to stay on brand with lead, or any thoughts of like moving into modern environmental horrors like microplastics?
I'm thinking I'm done with the environmental stuff, to be honest with you. It's like, because I know about lead, and I know about science, and I know about economics, and I know that there's like a big issue with people not accessing the means of production because it's just too expensive. Wages are so stagnant. So, like, my real dream is to initiate a business protocol that enables wide disruption of an industry, and then forthwith I'll sell the business to the public on some, like, what's it called? Like an indentured servitude play. Because I still want to get paid, obviously. Like, I came up with this. But should I own this forever? Probably not. Because I have no use for it to own it forever. I don't need to accumulate that much money. It'll just go straight to my head, and I'll crash my helicopter into a tree. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Like, it's not, there's like a limit to what you can do with all that money. And I think that the best thing one can do is enable other people to extricate themselves from an environment where they trade their time for money. Because that's kind of like an egregious violation of humanity. There's like, because prior to like the economic or this, the Industrial Revolution, there was like subsistence farming and subsistence living. And then the historians will always point out, like, oh, once like people freed up more time, they started to make more art. Like, we got away from like subsistence gathering, hunting and gathering all day. But now we're right back to hunting and gathering cash, and then trading that cash for basic necessities, for housing, for healthcare, for transportation, for education. And it's doing the same thing. You know, spending all day and night working is like really, really messed up situation. So like my dream is to just like, you know, turn industries that I think are asleep at the wheel on their head and then get some good innovation in there and then open that up to everybody and say, hey guys, like let's play ball with this. This is going to be sick. And I want to sell you a box that can generate you 10K a month. I only want 20K for this because it cost me 5K to make. And I'm fine with that. That was really my dream. And that's probably going to be, you know, farming, something like that. I don't really go crazy. I like writing patents, and I like the whole writing patent process is really fun. It's like an argument that you make. And my first product was actually, I was going to make a patented product. It was called the Touch and Plug. And I went full bore on this. Made a Kickstarter. I made a video. You know, it's just an outlet cover with a depression on the top, a depression on the bottom, and then 2 further depressions vertically. So you slide the prong into the depressions and you don't need to look. You can feel your way into the socket. And I totally botched it because I should have just made the thing and started selling it. Like I should have did what I'm doing now then. And this is like 6 years ago. But I didn't at the time. So then after that, I wrote another patent for some dry cleaning machine. I wound up getting it. And then I'm like, all right, patents are stupid. But I do still have a couple more pending. One's for a wake boat. It's sick. Have you ever done wake surfing?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's a lot of fun. If you come to Long Island, we can go wake surfing. I got a wake surfing boat.
That's sick. Let's do it.
Yeah, the way it works is the back of the boat, it goes like this, and it deflects the water, making a bigger displacement area behind the boat, and then there's a wave that forms on the other side, and you can surf on it. What my invention with that is actually that deflection thing will intake the water and pull it through the drivetrain so you could scoop out significantly more water and make a huge wave. Because right now the wave size is limited to the displacement of the vessel. But the boat, like, you basically have the wheel turn 90% and you're almost driving sideways. And it's just like a huge waste of gas and it's annoying to navigate. Like, it could be done way better. So I'm excited for that. That'll be pretty cool if it comes out. And you know, other stuff. So, but insofar as the lead is concerned, like this is a big problem. Like there's 36 million homes in America with lead. I don't know how many of them I can actually get to test, but like I really want to do something where it's like give the test to your neighbor or something. Like I'm going to try something where I'm like, because the margins are still pretty good. So like, you know, like if you get a test kit, you test your house, give it to your neighbor. They can test their house. Like the amount of tests that are in the spray bottle is about 170 in the spray bottle, but the drip bottle is over 3,000 individual tests per bottle. That's like $15,000 worth of 3M lead checks. That's an insane amount of tests. So you could test, you know, you probably need to test, you know, 100 surfaces in your house to really get granular on any exposed lead. So, you know, you could do 30 houses per bottle. And then I could just send a replacement bottle and you could use the same flashlight, you know, in theory. But it's a big problem all over the world. So I'm hoping that I can generate enough steam with this that I can afford this warehouse, number one. And then I can just move on to just doing other endeavors. And because like other stuff is hard. You can't really test for microplastics. You can't really test for PFAS with chemicals. It's chemically inert. Glycophosphate is in such low concentrations, you can't test for chemicals with it. Like lead is just easy as hell to detect. And I knew that in 2019. And now with this new technology, the glowing lead, it's like so easy. So, but I have no idea, you know, if there's an easy way for me to do this, because I just know about manufacturing stuff. I just know what I know. And I know that I don't know jack about anything else. So I'm not going to get caught, you know, Dunning-Krugering myself into a situation where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm certain on this. And then it turns out that I was certainly wrong. I'd rather be wrong now.
Were you surprised by the audience reaction to any of the videos?
The one video that was so crazy that it got the most views actually. It got like it probably has almost 9 million views now. And it's a video of me. And this is the reason why it got so viral, is it caused so much confusion amongst the viewers. Because I was just taking the bottle and just applying the reagent to all these different like necklaces that were on like sticks, and there was just necklace. And I'm just like, and shining the light on it. And I did this, and I don't have the confidence now I don't know why, but like I just think that people will click away from stuff if they don't see it glowing, because that's probably what I would do. But this video
Yeah.
had probably like 30 seconds. It's a single clip, 30 seconds of just clip, and I'm like, nope, I can't find any. And I just keep on going, and eventually I found lead in this old ass like medallion chain thing. And then I just show the chain, and I leave the store with it, and it got like 9 million views, and it's like a minute-long video. And I was like, it was so crazy because the people didn't know what I was doing. They thought I was gluing all the chains down. That was like the chief. And I didn't refute any of them. I didn't even answer, because in the beginning, when I first started out the account, it was so crazy because I was just not even. People thought it was fake. They actually thought that it was a fake thing, that I was only releasing the liquid sometimes, and the liquid was
I've seen
fluorescent.
a few comments like that. That's crazy.
And that was predominating in the beginning, and I wasn't refuting it at all. And because I was like pretty far away from selling the product, it required me actually in the U.S. to get a license from the DEA to manufacture a chemical called methylamine, which if you've seen Breaking Bad, you know that that's like could be used in making methamphetamine, even though like you're not using it to make methamphetamine, because
Right.
you need something else that's like even more controlled. That's a Schedule II drug to combine it with. So like it's a stupid law, but the law was made in the 1990s, and the DEA isn't like, oh yeah, just like have methylamine, everybody, do whatever you want with it. But that's also why Breaking Bad was like featured it, because like you couldn't actually do anything wrong with it, even though it sounds like really crazy. It smells really crazy too. But so I had to get that license. Dealing with any like big bureaucratic agency, especially the DEA, I guess, it took forever to get it. So in December, I just got it like 4 days ago, actually. They finally approved me. So yay. So I'm happy now. But at the time, I'm like, I'm far away from selling this. I'm just gotta like bide my time. I'm not trying to like blow it up or talk too much about it. I'm just trying to post. I'm just trying to post videos and have a body of work. I wasn't trying to like blow up and get all this attention. And I was like, I didn't even think too much into it. And then so it was crazy when I put that video out, and then it was so funny not answering people. But then I realized like I really am not providing any value not answering them.
Yeah.
And I did this for like two or 3 weeks, and I started getting all these messages, and the people were serious. They were seriously asking me about lead. And I was like, oh my God, I got to answer these guys. I can't just like ignore them. Like they're just genuinely asking, and a lot of them are very concerned. And like I had a lot of experiences with people who got problems from lead in their family, and I was always like very open to them. Much like you may be open to a wild animal because it looks cute. And then you find out that this is a non-compliant being, and it will tear your house apart and just do whatever it would do in the wild, but it's in your house, but it doesn't know the difference. So I got a real like shock over and over again, and a lot of I told you so's from people who I know, like my girlfriend or my family or my friends. They're like, why did you even do that? I'm like, I don't know. So I just realized I'm like, wow, like I'm like actually getting somewhere with this, but I don't have no like, confidence in myself as being a influencer of any kind.
I think those sometimes end up being the best ones because they, aren't trying so hard. They're just being pretty natural, which it seems like you're doing.
That's what I'm trying to do. I never thought about, I don't even, like people buy like fake jewelry and stuff. Like I would never do that. That would blow my mind. Like these are real Cartiers. These are like $7,500. I wear these every day. They're bent. Like I don't know how to be fake. I know how to be stupid, but I don't know how to be fake. It's just not in my nature, because that's just like antithetical to who I am, because that would cause me so much stress upkeeping that persona. Oh my gosh. So I really just rather relate genuinely, and that takes off like 80% of the burden of like keeping up a false lie. And like, that's just not, I reserved that for like, when I was addicted to opiates. That's when I would, keeping up the false lie was necessary then. But now it's like, there's no payoff. There's no payoff here. It's just a living normal life. Like I'll just be straight up. It's okay. I don't need to lie about this.
All right, before we get into our stupid internet questions we ask everyone, you mentioned taking about a decade hiatus from social media. Do you want to go into why that was and what you did during that wilderness period?
So this is like 2014. I was, in 2012, I went to rehab, and I was doing opiates. I was doing heroin. Oh my God. And I was like so addicted to it. And so I had to go to rehab. And then so after that, I'm like, all right, I'm still have 2 years left of college. All my friends drink and party, except for the ones who have either perished already or are still addicted to opiates. So I'm going to go away from those guys. I'm going to hang out with the crew. I'm going to hang out with everybody and act totally normal and go to these parties and just chill. And so like I continued to just like act normal as much as I could. And it was kind of hard to act normal. And I guess I turned up a little bit too hard on things that are like semi-normal. And I went up just like freaking out so much. I was like, wow, I got to totally stop what I'm doing because this is not working for me. Like for a fact, I am not going anywhere good acting like this. And so all I know is how to quit things entirely. Like when I went to rehab for the opiates, they were trying to give me Suboxone, which is like an opiate replacement drug. And it was like made me feel all better. I'm like, wow, I don't even feel sick. This is not acceptable because I feel normal. I should feel terrible. I have really violated the world egregiously by taking this opiate drug over and over again to feel good. Like I need to pay the piper at this point. And so I rejected it. And after that, I never took it again. And I never had any issues with it once. Like it's like a magic potion. Just stop doing it forever. So when I realized in 2014, like I got to make a serious change to my behavior, I just deleted my social media accounts. I was like, this is probably the number one thing. Like I'm spending so much time on it. This is how I relate to a lot of people that I've known for years because everybody's in college. Like this is the way to like interact. And so I just decided to delete it because I thought that it was associated with a prior epoch of malfeasant behavior. So that was part of my plan. And I just stuck with it. I just never got it again. And then I'm like, why am I going to get that? It's not going to serve me any good because I know the game. I know what you get out of it. You just get in everyone's face and say what's up and let them know how cool you are. And that was like 0% of what I was interested in. I was just interested in like figuring out what I was going to do practically with my life. And that was like not drinking, not taking drugs. And then eventually it was starting a business. And then I still never did any of the social media stuff because there was no reason to. I was running an anonymous business, Atomic Rhino, smelling salts, Citus lead tests. Like these have no association with me online. And that's fine. But then, yeah, so I just never used it. I mean, I had an Instagram account, but I had posted it once. And then, it just wasn't interesting to me because I already done it. I did it so hardcore when I was in high school. And a couple of years later, I was like, when you like eat a food too much, like you find a new food and you're like, this is the best food. And you order it every day for 2 weeks. This is just what I do. And then at the third week, you're like, that I'm so over that food. Like I know exactly how to concoct the perfect bite. I know what happens when I eat it. I've done it so much, it's played out. It was just played out. And so the only reason to really get into it was something like this, where there's an opportunity to put forward information and use the internet as a platform to like do something that's good, that's way beyond me. Like it is me doing it, but like the fact that you might find out that there's like lead in the baby bottle that you're feeding your kid or like avoid buying it is like huge. And that has very little to do with me. Like, that has to do with you. And that's an amazing thing that I can impart on you. And it's unfortunate right now that the information is so nascent that there's not a lot of people who actually have benefited from it. So like my real hope is that like 5 years from now, people avoid the issue entirely. And one of the really also reasons that I started the account and like felt compelled to do this was I couldn't get the influencers that already existed to comply with my plans at all. And the customer service calls that I get for my product on Amazon, I always ask them, why did you buy this lead testing kit? And they would tell me because my child has an elevated blood lead level. And then I would say, oh my God, it's kind of too late. And I came up with this line, test with kits, not kids. Because children are the de facto most popular lead testing kit in the country. They're tested at random in between the ages of 1 and 3. And that's how people find out that they have lead in their house, or they have lead in their water, or their soil has lead, or their knickknacks around the house have lead. And that's insane. That's the last way to find out for lead. Like using kids as canaries in coal mine, but like it's a kid's brain and you can't come back from that. That's a really messed up scenario. And it's just so stupid. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's like everyone, and I'm part of this thing called LeadNet, and it's an email listserv. So it's kind of just like an email chain that goes on forever. And I always see them, they're like investigating these blood lead levels. And like, if only these parents, before they bought the house, before they had their kid, tested the environment, they will be able to identify, oh, there's lead paint here. Oh, the soil has lead. These dishes are covered in lead. Let's throw them out. Let's not buy the house. Let's not buy that product. And so it sucks because you can't save everybody who's already had this happen. And that's where we're at, because everybody's experiencing the fallout from their whole life. And I've only existed in this space for like 2 months. So it really sucks because like this does weigh on me, and I know that if I keep on doing it in a year from now, there'll be a significant portion of people who have seen this information and forthwith have avoided the issue before they even got into it. So that's like, I don't know. That's a significant aspect to this.
Yeah, if there was ever a reason to get back on social media, I think you found one.
Yeah, I got no choice. It sucks, actually. I don't even want to do this. I'm just like that lady with her pet. Like, I do not want to do this. This is the last thing I want to do. I don't want to learn new skills. I don't want to get stressed out. I don't want to have all these people looking at me and saying, they say nice things, but it's just like, I am like, it's too much. So I'd rather not do it, but I know that that's not the way to live life, is to avoid stressful situations. So I know I'll be better for it in the future, but it's not fun. Actually, I got to admit, it's like very rarely fun. It's like insanely intense rush sometimes, getting like so much feedback. I'm like, wow, this video is blowing up. Like I just accumulated like 5,000 new followers in one day. What the hell? This is going to be crazy. But then there's like a dearth, and I'm like, oh my God, I only got 1,000 today.
Oh man, it never ends either. All right, so let's get into some of our dumb questions about the internet. We have a fun little feature on this podcast we use to judge our subjects. It's called Tab Check. Eric, right now, how many tabs do you have open on your browser of choice?
I got 100 open. I'm a tab hoarder, for sure.
I felt like this was going to be a high number. I don't know why. Yeah. I just felt like it was going to be high.
No, and then the worst part, because I'll never let a tab go. I'll start on a tab journey, and then I'll open up several ancillary tabs, and I'll say, all right, this is my plan. I'm going to execute this. And then I get distracted, and then I'll never delete them. But then eventually I'll have to just shut Firefox down and just nuke everything, because my computer's lagging so much that I just have to just destroy the whole past. So it's like, it's a lot of tabs. I'm a real tab fiend. Once they opened up tab, like make a new tab, I'm always like, open a new tab. Yes. Like it's like sweeping it under the rug. Just like put it to the side. Don't worry about it.
It's that ice cube that comes out and then you just kick it under the fridge.
Yeah. Easiest thing.
All right. So when you open your social media apps, what are the algorithms feeding you right now?
They're feeding me a lot of car videos for some reason. Cars going really fast.
Okay.
Making a lot of noise. They're feeding me like, those like motivational influencers that say like, oh, like Alex Hormozy saying like, whatever, nothing matters but your business and stuff like that. And then like for a while I was getting a lot of just ads for like for just like because I went on like I've read some Russell Brunson books and familiar with his work, and like everybody is doing like Russell Brunson-esque business now. So I got a lot of those guys ads on there, and I don't know what else. Like just like that stuff, really. Like maybe some animals.
Are you actually a car guy, or is it just feeding you that because you went down a rabbit hole one day?
I just went down a rabbit hole, but it's so sensitive. Like you click on
Yeah.
one or two videos and then it just goes
Yep.
with it. And I'm not like seeking out other stuff to get off of the path. Like like a couple months ago, no, like a month ago, I was I don't know, I looked at one video about 9/11, and then for like a week, it was like 9/11 all over again. I saw so many new 9/11 videos. I was like, what the hell is going on? I can't. And like you watch them, I guess, because it's like crazy stuff happening on your phone.
Yeah.
I got off of that one though, thank God. But it was messed up. But so yeah, just like because I'm very like lazy with it. I don't really seek out new stuff. So it's just like stuff about business and so a lot of times I watch this stuff and there's a big element of irony watching, and I'm like, man, I don't know, because these like I don't know who to compare myself to, because the people in my personal life, I don't do anything that they do, and they don't do anything that I do mostly. So I really don't know what to do about that. But like when I look at the internet, I'm like seeing people who are trying to do big things, and I'm saying, okay. And I wound up just like comparing myself to these people, and it's like so insane because they're doing a specific thing, and that's definitely not what I'm doing. But they are more or less in the same boat, and years ahead of me. So it just makes me feel bad that I didn't like absolutely crush it every second of the day. And obviously, like no one's going on social media and being like, hey, I was really struggling today. I like for 3 hours just like idly stressed out about something and didn't accomplish one thing, because that doesn't sell. The smoke that's for sale, and I'm not selling smoke. I'm selling products. I just make products. That's like the only thing I do. So like I got products. If you want to buy them, I got the best products around. That's how I always feel.
Do you have favorite accounts to follow on social media, or is it just stuff that makes you feel bad all the time?
I don't even follow accounts. I follow Barack
Okay.
Obama, because when I first made the Instagram account, I'm like, it was suggesting people. And it was Barack Obama and Sydney Sweeney were recommended to me. I was like, I am not going to follow Sydney Sweeney. That account is insane. So I just followed Barack, and I'm like, okay, Barack Obama is like my favorite president. I'm going to follow him. He's cool. And I wasn't trying to follow people. I wasn't trying to get involved, and like, I just wasn't trying to use social media. So it just whatever the algorithm is telling me is what I experience. And so I try to not look at it. And then, another one that I actually like this guy's video. He's called Viral Video Club, and he gives you ideas about how to make viral videos, and they're actually great. I mean, I appreciate his content. So I've watched some of those, and because I'm just trying to get ideas about how to learn more about this stuff. Because I'm really going on social media it may be a farce, but I'm trying to learn more, and I'm trying to like get better at it because I'm not that good at it. So I'm just trying to actually acquire skills, and I really don't know where to look for information about this other than the social media itself. And then it seems to just like show me stuff. So I just like passively consume it when I do look at it.
What is a corner of the internet that people might be surprised you're interested in?
A corner of the internet that people surprised I'm interested in. I don't think that there would be any surprises. I mean, Wikipedia, ChatGPT.
What are you doing on ChatGPT? What kind of prompts are you feeding in there?
I mean, I used to be going. Well, it used to be way better, in my opinion. It used to be like crazy. Like it would tell you like dangerous stuff if you asked it. It would tell you. One time I got it to write. Used to write full patents too. One time I got it to write me a patent for It was a litter box that could also function as a pest control device, where the way it worked was it was kind of like a salad spinner, and it would spin the litter outside. And if you wanted to catch an animal, it would spin the animal and get rid of it for you. And like it would, like it wouldn't. So I would like to feed ChatGPT very risque prompts to see what it will do, and to see if it will like, cross lines that, people might not want. A thing that I really enjoy doing is like engaging in debate about topics that I know are not really reasonable, but I could make a case for it. So it's like, I'm making a strong argument here, but like, is it really a reasonable thing to say? No, but like, I could still say this for hours. And so I like to do that with ChatGPT. But I think they took all the steam out of it. They really neutered it, or whatever you say. Like, they made it suck. And I don't know why that is. I think that they're just trying to, because it is super powerful. And eventually, eventually I think that computers will be they will gain consciousness eventually. Whether we intercalate our own nervous systems with computers, or the computer just has such a grasp of its own neural network that it's able to ideate in its own mind, if you want to call it that, which will come first. I'm not sure. But, I love Wikipedia. That's my favorite website still. Like, ChatGPT replaced it for a hot minute, but Wikipedia is still the OG source. Well, people might be.
Wikipedia. Do you go to Wikipedia like looking for something specific, or do you just type in wikipedia.com and just start going nuts in there?
It's always something specific, but then I always wind up on something that I wasn't intentionally looking about. But here's the good answer to that question. One corner of the answer that people might be surprised I'm interested in is the ongoing legal case surrounding Jeffrey Williams, young thug in Georgia, which is like constantly full of updates. He's been indicted for RICO charges for his like gang/record label. Because I'm a big fan of rap music. I listened to it in high school, and it taught me a lot actually about, business and like certain aspects of like how things could work if there were no rules. And obviously, like, I know from my experience, like none of my friends have an illegal gun. Let's put it that way. And like, if none of your friends have an illegal gun, the chance of you having an illegal gun are almost zero. So like, I took all the information I got from this rap music and I kind of reinterpreted it in like a way that I could, like selling those drug testing kits. Like, was that super above board? Maybe not. Obviously not. But like, did I care? No. I'm trying to like, cook something up and get money out of it. And, that was like a good motivator for me. That's why I'm wearing these damn glasses. Stupid young thug. He really was a good advertiser for these luxury brands.
What is the last thing that made you truly laugh online?
It was a video about a lady lamenting the fact that she had to post every day about her pet lizard. And she was saying, I hate this lizard. I have to get it to wiggle around and make cute movements, and it's so stressful, but it's my sole source of income. And I just really felt that so deeply because I feel compelled to post all the time, and it's like so stressful. But I know that it will eventually, I hope that it will become fun. I don't know if any content creator online is actually having fun posting, but I think that they do, because eventually once you get good at something, it becomes fun. And I know in the beginning of doing anything, all the failures suck. And there's nothing fun about that. But then once you start to get into the flow state of things, it actually becomes fun. And one of the most like relaxing things I do now, which is like my big guilty pleasure, is I just manufacture stuff. I go into this mode where I turn my body into part of the machinery that I have. And then I just generate so many repetitive movements that there's thousands of bottles of stuff made. And I just do this. And I can make 200 bottles a minute like this. And I just do this for an hour. And I'm like, I'm really doing something here. And I'm so adept at moving the stuff around and doing it that it just really relaxes me. But I know that it's like the least, like somebody else will do this. I don't have to do this. But like, I just flee from the uncertainty and chaos and calamity of like leading the charge into the unknown. And I just go to something familiar and do that.
When you get into the flow state of that kind of manufacturing stuff, are you fully focused on that, or are you, listening to a podcast or taking something in, or are you just 100% like in on those manual motions?
I do the manual motions, and then I just normally think about stuff. I don't really listen to podcasts. I used to listen to music, but then I'm like, I don't know. The music isn't really that good of an influence. It's not music that I listen to. So I'd be like, I don't know. I'll just try not to listen to that stuff because it's like crazy music, But
Yeah.
no, sometimes I listen to podcasts and stuff, but like I always listen to them on 2x speed. So I'm always just, and I go through phases of listening to podcasts, but lately I just been doing the thing, and just thinking about maybe like the ideas. Like sometimes I'll have my buddy there, and he's really supposed to be doing the stuff, the making. But then I'll do the making, and I'll just tell him ideas. And the other day, actually, I was having a good time. We were just recording, and I was just like saying, like, listen, guys, like this is what it is right now. Because right now I have this office space that's like 500 square feet, and it's like the best office space. It's like $500 a month. I got a labeling machine in there. I put like 200,000 bottles through this labeling machine and sold them.
Jeez.
And like I've gotten such a huge return on the machine itself. And like that space has been so good business wise that it's amazing. And like I'm really sad about the fact that like this new warehouse is like going to have so much overhead compared to what it's been, because it's been like a really insane operation where it's like almost nothing's going on, but like I'm still generating, 20,000 units a month. So,
Are you filling the whole warehouse immediately? Or are you going to like sublease a little bit of the space to make sure you have some income out of it?
It unfortunately is already full. Wow. Because it's taken so long to get the space because there was a lot of problems with the CO and there's some fire violations. But I actually was able to rent it from the guy, and I put all the stuff in there, and like buying materials, especially buying materials from sources that I'm not familiar with, is really stressful. So I just tend to like buy in bulk and like compile so much of the resources. So like right now I have like around 70,000 flashlights and like 140,000 bottles and spray tops and 100,000 drip tips. And, when I get the methylamine and the hydrobromic acid, I'm going to get like 1,000 pounds of it, and I'm going to mix it, and I'm just going to sit on an insane amount, so I have basically enough of the chemical to make like 600,000 lead testing kits. So it's packed. The warehouse is packed. And like, of course, I've also had like all these other ideas about like 18 different things. So I bought stuff for that, and it's just in the warehouse. So the warehouse is packed. It's got racks on one wall. It's got office space in front. That's not packed yet, but I was in there. I think I'll be able to make content around the warehouse, which I think will be fun because it's like kind of like the experience of like, because I really don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like I know how to do certain things really well, and like I won't fault on answering questions about that. But like when it comes to like how to like do this other stuff, I'm like really unknown about it. So like I will be learning, and I'm going to organize it. And like, I guess people want to watch, I don't know. Cause like, I think it's kind of endearing to be, somebody who's relatable, and it's certainly relatable to not know what the hell you're doing. That's like the most relatable thing ever. So I'll show people that. Hopefully they like it. And then, over the next, I don't know. I don't remember the question, but over the next like month or so, it's going to evolve into the warehouse will be functioning. Like I'll literally sign the documents tomorrow. And then in a month, I'll have that atomic absorption spectrometer. I can test all the food. The warehouse hopefully will be in like a good status, like where I can like film a podcast. Cause I got nowhere to film. Like, you see what's behind me. You got a plant. You got a wall. My house is packed with stuff. My warehouse is packed with stuff. None of it's organized. It's not functioning. So I'm really like limited in the places that I can actually film. Like I don't have a 6 sign like you have, and like slats on the wall. Like this is really well set up. Like my boom mics I have 2 boom mics on the floor right here. Like I'll show you. They're literally just sitting there. Like, what is
There we
it?
go.
What is going on with that? Why do I have that scale there? That scale's for weighing like packages. This is my office. So I'm in a real like flux state of just being like, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to get to the next stage or whatever. And this is where I go legit. You know, the DEA accepted my application. Everybody loves it, apparently. And like that was a very stressful thing. But they were really super cool. I mean, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just making lead tests, trying to buy methylamine. Because the key is the methylamine that I'm getting now, the methylammonium bromide that I'm getting now costs like $300 a pound or something. It's so expensive. So the methylamine is like $5 a pound, and the bromic acid is like $2 a pound. Combining it together and then boiling off the water will yield the same exact thing for a fraction of the cost. So like my goal is just to be the plug for this lead testing chemical. And then my real dream is to put on people in foreign countries who are hustlers, who want to make money, who would probably do anything, but they could sell something that gives society a huge benefit in detecting lead. And people will buy lead testing kits anywhere. So I really hope to make that, enable them to do that, because like that's the best way to spread this testing technology, is just to hook people up with the means of production, give them a motivation, and then teach them how to do it, or just order the materials right to them, and then they could just go crazy and just fill up all the bottles, spread it around.
I won't pry on finances, but what kind of volume do you have to do to be profitable with all this inventory you're carrying?
I don't know. A lot, I guess. I mean, like, I don't know. It is insane though, because I did spend so much money on this stuff. Like I shouldn't have spent so much money on this, but like I did. But like it's scary though, because like I probably am in the hole for like $300K.
Okay.
On all this lead testing crap.
And are you moving product right now? Like how much are you actually moving?
I sell like maybe like 8,000 lead tests a month on Amazon. I sell like 10,000 of the smelling salts. So I got, my business is booming. Like it's working. Yeah. It's booming. Yeah. No, it's like it's going well, but I'm just not used to, you know, one thing that I really am fearful of is owing people money. From just like my childhood experience of like, when I was addicted to drugs, I owed someone money one time, and it was so stressful because they were constantly asking me for it because they were addicted too. So they were like, "You got that money? You got that money?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's been like 24 hours. Like, I need money for my own addiction. Like, how am I going to give you money?" And it was so stressful. So I just have never wanted to owe anyone money. And like, I know if I take out a big loan, what if I can't pay it later?
Yeah.
What if I can't pay it later? So it's really like, I'm, you know, a little freaked out. And normally when I buy some stuff, I can just flip it quick. And I'm like, all right, it wasn't so bad. Like I only risked $10,000, and I'll risk $10,000 again. I'll risk $10,000 again. But now I'm like, all right, I got all this risk for so long. Like I put down 100K like a year ago. So I really am pretty stressed about it, but I think it'll work out. Like, you know, the new lead testing kit provides so much value that I'll be able to charge a little bit more for it. It's going to be around $50 if you just want a spray bottle and a flashlight. And right now, I know there's another company selling. They sell it for $75. So, you know, I'll sell in between 50 and like $85. But for $85, you're going to get like an insane amount of value. So I'll do the old pricing scheme of McDonald's, where you get a small, medium, or large. Like, why would you ever buy a medium when the large is just a tiny bit more and you get way more? Because that's really what it's about. Like, if you get, if you get like the ability to do 8,000 individual lead tests, you're set. You're probably never going to use that up.
Right.
You could give that to anyone, or you could test for fun, because it is actually fun to test. And my dream is really to get people hooked on testing, to have them going to stores, testing this stuff around their house, you know, because it's just more publicity around it, and it's more awareness that it exists and that it can be identified so easily. And the most relaxing thing is to identify a potential risk and then remediate it. And right now, the zeitgeist around lead is centered around cataloging all items with lead in our brains, which is the absolute last thing that I think anybody should be thinking about, is what items have lead, what items don't. Like, just test your items. If your items have lead, throw them away. If your house has lead, overpaint it or pay a professional to remediate it. If your pipe is lead, get an adequate filter and then move on. Think about stuff that's actually important. Think about your family, your kids, your parents, your job, your hobbies. Like, those are all good things to think about. Thinking about what's going to poison me is so draining, and it really hurts me to know that a lot of people experience that, and it's like, oh my God. But like, unfortunately, the way that people who advocate for this stuff make money is just by getting views, and they don't necessarily offer solutions, and that's kind of why we're in the circumstance that we're in with it. And it's like weird because it's like such a niche thing, but so many people engage and say that they know about this, that it's like, oh my gosh, there's a big group of people that are having a lot of excessive and unnecessary anxiety about things that they really don't need to have anxiety about.
So let's use that as a segue into our next question then, which, we want to get into the dark side of the internet a little bit. What was your most scarring moment on the internet, if you can bring yourself to disclose it?
Well, I did a significant amount of EMDR on this one. I don't remember what that stands for, but it's a way to remediate traumatic events. But I saw this, one of those videos of some guys getting their heads cut off with a chainsaw because they wronged the cartel. Oh my God. And then I was working. My dad's like a mason, and the company does landscaping at a place. And, we're using chainsaws. We're using damn chainsaws, which have a very distinct sound. And I'm like, this chainsaw sound is making me flash back to this so hard every time. I hate it. So, I did some side eye movement and some recounting of it, some tapping the pen, and that works. That makes the memory get reconfigured because it's so confusing to do tapping and looking and remembering that it gets re-remembered in that context, and it's much less salient. So that is a very effective technique. But that was very unpleasant for those gentlemen, and not so fun to watch. But
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. It's stuff's not cool. Like, I don't like how that stuff's on the internet. The internet is a crazy place because it's really just, there's so much crap on there that it really just it's all around. So it's like, it's tricky to avoid bad stuff on the internet.
So when you need to get off, how do you pry yourself away from your devices or log off? Do you have any tactics that might be helpful to others?
I don't know if I don't really know if I can never sell a course on anything because my tactics are so unique to me that I don't think that they're ubiquitous. I can't just be like, do this and you'll succeed. Like, that probably won't work. When I need to get off, I'm just like, I just freak out. I'm just like, this is terrible. I got to get out of here. What am I doing? I'm trapped. I'm literally trapped. And I'll like look around. I'm like, can't stop doing this. I feel the compulsion. And then I just turn it off. And I think, what do I need to do that's more important than this? And I just go immediately and do that thing. Because otherwise I'll just sit and do that. Because like, I'm literally stimming on my phone. I'm just distracting myself. Oh my gosh. Some new thing I've never seen before. A new novel. Oh my God. What is that machine? How is that a gear the size of a person? Are they sawing? What are they making a table out of that? Is that ramen? They're repairing a table with ramen? It's so crazy. Like, they get you so bad. I've seen so many videos with this apple, and it looks like a crazy looking apple. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's like an apple. It's being cut with like a curved knife, and they're just about to crack it open. And then they just show you like exotic places. It's like the craziest hook. And it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want the apple. I want to see the inside of the apple because I know the apple from miamifruit.com. They have the craziest fruit. It doesn't all taste good though, but it's called like a love apple or something. And the inside could look like a heart. It's really cool looking. So like, I know that apple has that in it, but they don't show it to you because they just hook you in to watch this stupid video. But I'm a real sucker for videos on like, it's just like playing. I'm just like, oh man, I'll just watch them all day. But then I feel inside like that anxiety building. And once I just get anxious enough, I'm just like, I got to apply this. And the only way to stop the anxiety is just to go do something. I'll just sit and even if I get off the phone, I'll just sit and still feel anxious because I'm like, I'm not doing anything right now. I'm doing absolutely nothing, which makes me freak out because like I got no time.
Where do you think you would be without the internet?
I would be in freaking nowhere. I would literally be nowhere because there's something called the Flynn effect, which is that IQ increases over time. Now I know is because of the elimination of lead in the gas and in the paint. But I thought forever, or I still pretty much think this, is that the access to information probably dictates how smart a person could be in any topic, at least. And so in the past, before the internet, we actually hunted and gathered for information in books, in other people, and the resources were difficult to mine. It was hard to get information. I don't know if you ever asked somebody something that you could have just looked up, but like 4 or 5 sentences in, you're like, why did I ask? Why did I ask this? So I could have just looked this up and got the actual answer much faster. I remember one time we were driving back from someplace, and the dude, this is like 2015, and the dude's calling his brother, getting directions. We're coming from upstate New York to go into Long Island. He's getting directions to go through the city. And within 30 seconds, they're like arguing. And I'm like, dude, why aren't we looking this up? Why aren't we looking this up? And so I think a big reason that people become smarter over time is because the access to information is easier. So instead of foraging for the information and wasting time and effort actually finding it in hard to find places like the woods, if you find some berries, you're in pretty good shape. But if you can just have a farm, well, you're in better shape still. But then if all that farm produce is collated in a centralized location, you're really good. Now you just go to the supermarket. But take it a step further. If DoorDash exists, now you just go on your phone, you scroll for 2 seconds, and you have the whole cooked meal delivered to your house like that. And that's what the internet is. It just gives immediate access to a la carte packets of information that are specialized. There's not infinite, but there's virtually infinite, like effectively infinite experiences from other people. There's effectively infinite documentation on historical events. There's factual information on science and technology, and anything you want to know, the internet will tell you. And I've always like really appreciated the internet's ability to impart information. And like when I was going to school, I was always like, this is a joke. What is this? What is happening? Like we're in class, the teacher's telling us some stuff. Like all this information is online. If I actually needed any of it, I would just find out how to do it online. Like I'm not going to sit in class and think about this information. Like I'm not learning at the same speed as these other people. Like sometimes I need more help. Sometimes I don't need any help because it's already obvious. But it's, it's not stressful. The internet isn't stressful at all because I can learn at my own speed. I can peruse. I can just look at stuff. Like I can read, and like nobody's asking me, grilling me questions. Like if I need to know it, I'm going to find it out. And I think that that's like one of the best ways to just go about it, because I hate being obligated to do work just because they say to do it. That just seems so crazy.
So if the internet went away tomorrow and you could save one thing, what would that be?
I mean, this is probably like a cheating answer. It's like wishing for more wishes, but I would just save the entire Wikipedia database. I mean, that's not a really good one, but to be honest, that's what I would save, because there's nothing else out there that I'm really that interested in. Like, because the interesting part of the internet for me now, that's the most compelling part, is the part that's ongoing. It's the ongoing conversations. It's the interactions with people on there. It's not like, I don't know what even people would, I don't know what other people would respond to that about, but I would save the information so I could access it, because an encyclopedia is like great, but it sucks when you have the internet, because the whole thing is indexed and it takes almost no time to find it. If you look on Google, I don't know if it still says this, but if you search something, it says it took 0.0002 seconds to find this page. That's like amazing. It's like, I mean, the internet has completely revolutionized how we do everything. And I think it's bringing us closer to the edge of of like the end, because like now everybody's got access to everything,
That's
and
true.
it just flattens everything out, because everything used to be so hierarchical, where like the only people who could make any money were the people who owned land, which was the original means of production. But now the internet connects, me to a guy in India, and like if he's gonna make a something up for me, like that's great. Like everything's flat now, so anybody can do anything. I'm looking forward to the day. I don't know if they'll legalize this, because this could get hairy, but when service jobs are replaced by people in countries like India, where they could operate a robotic arm or a series of arms or a series of devices that don't even resemble human appendages, because why would they if they're specialized enough to make food, for example, or do any process that could like Chipotle, for example. Not targeting people who work at Chipotle, but they will be targeted by this technology when it exists, because you just need a guy just dumping food, raw materials into these hoppers, and then you can have Indian guys getting paid twice what they would normally get paid in India, but a fraction of what you'd make in America, to just sort out all these things. And there's unlimited shifts and there's unlimited workers, and that will really hasten the kind of demise of like the job, as it were. And then hopefully it will be replaced by just like massive value creation. But the issue is only a few people own Chipotle.
I know.
So like they don't need more money.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's getting really crazy out there. And I feel bad for people who were born in the past, because they missed out on like all the cool stuff. Like it must have been such a bore in like the 1950s.
Plus just dying of things we can easily solve now.
Yeah. And then new issues are created, but the thing that I love about lead, insofar as it's an issue, is that it's a finite issue for sure. There's no more lead being made in paint. There's no more lead gas being burned. There's consumer products that have some lead, but these really are not responsible for very many poisonings at all. And those will probably go down too. And it will definitely go down. There's a limited stock of vintage items that have lead too. So this is a problem that's actually really easy to solve, like solving PFAS contamination, solving microplastic or CO2 emissions. They say there's a limited amount of oil, but I've never seen any oil run out. There's always gas at the gas pump, and there's like enough oil to really raise the sea levels to the point that we're going to be in such dire straits. So we're not going to run out of that stuff. And there's just an unlimited amount of that, like, pesticides and all that kind of stuff. So lead is so limited that it's like it can be completely categorized where it's at, and it can be remediated or made to be safer, or at least pointed out. I had ideated in the past about an app similar to Pokemon Go, kind of a geocaching app where you could find lead, make it glow, take a photo of it, and then the green color is so strong that it saturates the pixels on the phone. So I was going to count how many saturated pixels you get, and then each pixel that's saturated green, I was going to give away a lead test, one test. To people. So, if you find like 10,000 pixels, like I'm giving away multiple lead tests to somebody in Africa,
that's cool.
or India, wherever. Yeah. And I'm actually been meeting with this, not a company, it's an NGO called Pure Earth. And they have like a $14 million a year budget, which they do mostly pay themselves with and do advertising. That's like 60% of it. But, NGO is going to NGO. So they do some good for sure. And I hope that I can supercharge that by giving them a super effective solution at like a basically no cost, because I don't need to make money off of people in Africa. That's like insane. I'm trying to like hook them up. I'm trying to make it so they can just really turn up, because it's hard to over there. It's hard to live in an impoverished country.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. I could talk for like 20 more hours, but I think that we did get enough. This has been really fun.
All right. Thank you, Eric, for this discussion and for your contributions to the internet and public health. This is Ryan Perry saying log off. The internet will still be there when you get back.